Did it wrong. Damn it, we did it wrong. I knew the day would come.
There needs to be a more systematic way. I feel like this board is lacking in that way. It needs to just have buttons where you can just hit something, play, and do a command.
There is a little bit of that. We can get into macros and stuff, and you can basically create step-by-step processes and how long each one is going to do something.
Why wouldn't they build that in a board like this, though? Like, this board seems incredibly complicated, but some of the most basic things that like a novice user like us would want isn't available.
Yeah.
Like multiple masks, multiple pictures in pictures. That just feels like that should be in this.
I mean, from what I have learned, and I'm still very new to the whole live streaming thing, I think to do everything you want to do, you have to buy all these other dedicated boxes that,
of course,
just are made for that. So you're basically asking for something that doesn't even exist on the highest level of production.
Gotta be able to make that then. We would make a killing. Like, why can this little laptop not do all those things? You're telling me you need some, like, dedicated box?
It can with the right software.
Right,
We're
it's software
trying
based.
not to use the software.
That's all I'm saying is ATEM software should be.
ATEM should do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know. Well, anyway, sorry guys, we messed up the intro there, but welcome to the next Critique the Community Live. If you're watching right now on fstoppers.com, come on over and join us on YouTube. We've got a live chat going, and it's pretty fun to watch everybody vote on these images as we do. Are you ready to go ahead and get to the first image? Let me go ahead and mention, if you want to be a part of the next critique, I am doing, already forget, oh yeah, hot lights, consistent lights. So not natural light, not strobe light, but anything that you've taken with a consistent light, a light bulb, LED light, fluorescent light, anything like that, you can upload to the next critique. The link is in the description. You can always go to fstoppers.com/contests as well. Are you ready to get to it?
Let's do it. So this is the highest rated image?
Yep, this is the highest rated image. And this is the winner of a free tutorial, fstoppers.com/store. I also have to say I think this is my favorite image of the critique. It's kind of rare that that happens, but in this case, I think this was pretty clearly my favorite shot. What are your thoughts? Or should we just go ahead and rate it?
Man, it looks way better on that screen. Like on my iPad, it like lacks all the contrast. I feel like it's punchier on this cheap 65-inch TV.
Yeah.
So do I rate it based on that processing?
Let's rate it. 3, 2, 1. I'm going 4 stars. You're just giving it 3, huh?
3. I'm like 3.5. It's cool.
Everybody online is giving it 4s and 4.5. Oh, there's one 3. But you are in the minority here, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. These Galaxy shots. It's hard to say, like, because I always think, would I want to print this and put it in my house when it comes to fine art? And that's very closely related to does this belong in your portfolio? But this just feels a little over the top to me.
I mean, it's certainly over the top.
But if your portfolio, many people's portfolios these days is Instagram, I have no doubt that this is going to get so many likes and so many comments and so many shares. And I feel like this image will do really well.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely over the top, but it's done well, and I feel like it's respectable enough for what it is and how much post has been done to this. I feel like it's still relatively classy. We've definitely seen Galaxy images before that it's just like, oh my gosh, you've just exaggerated the contrast and the vibrance so much in the sky, it just looks insane. I mean, this one's up there, but I feel like this looks really good. So I'm going with 4 stars.
It reminds me of like something out of like those early Disney cartoons, you know, Fantasia or something. Or I used to love Disney Halloween. It feels like this creepy scene.
Well, Win Mag shot this, and he said he shot it with the Fujifilm XF 10 to 24 millimeter. I am so bad with Fujifilm, even after all the Fujifilm cameras we've had. Fujifilm just skipped over full frame, right? They went from crop sensor straight to medium format.
Large format, as they like to call it.
Of course. But I'm wondering if potentially at 10 to 24 millimeters, if this is from a crop sensor camera, you guys got to let me know.
That's got to be.
Then it may not be fair for this critique. I asked for 23 millimeters and wider, 35 millimeter equivalent. So it depends on what his zoom was, I suppose.
What is the crop factor on those cameras?
You're saying this is around 1.5, right?
This is a 15 millimeter, or you're saying if it was shot at the 24?
If it was shot at 24, that'd be way beyond.
Yeah.
But it definitely looks warped
yeah,
out.
this feels. I mean, to get that much of the galaxy and the sky in there, if it's not all faked in post.
People want to see it full screen again.
That is, it's going to have to be pretty wide. It's hard to get that much sky in your frame.
Yeah, but super cool shot. Let's move on to the next one. So this is a funny image here because this is the image I chose as the header for this entire contest.
Yeah.
And then the photographer...
Well, you know what?
What?
Oh, you can keep going on with your story, but...
Well, the photographer just ended up, I guess, seeing his own picture as an advertisement for this contest and then submitted that very image to the contest, and he ended up getting second place. This was the second highest rated image.
Well, I was going to say, and we've already messed this up, but you're supposed to name a number 2 through 10.
Let's just do the last one. Let's just do the first and the 10th.
We're going to do the first and the last every time? Okay.
That's easier to remember.
That's one way to cover up your mistake. If you think it's a mistake, go ahead and take another drink.
Let me also, people shouldn't be drinking this early, maybe in other countries. This image, the previous image was rated 3.71 stars. Are you ready to rate this one, Patrick?
I guess so.
3, 2, 1.
I feel like this is on the same level as the last image.
I mean, it's a similar wide-angle shot with a dead tree in the foreground, but I don't know. I do really prefer the previous shot. So this one, maybe I'd give this a 3 too. I don't know. I like it.
There's also this element that this goes against everything that this critique is about.
Okay.
But it's the idea that we were in this location with Elia and spent over an hour of him looking for one specific tree.
Yep.
And this tree, there's literally thousands of them along the walk. And I just remember being like, we could shoot any one of these trees, Elia, pick that one, and that, or that one, or that one. And I guarantee you this is not the one.
Do you guarantee that?
I mean, yeah, there's thousands of these trees out there.
I don't know. This could be the one that everyone...
I thought the one looked more like the previous shot where it's like the horns are coming. I don't know. In Elia's mind, there was like one that we had to photograph. And I remember just being like, pick any one of these. We're losing our light. I don't want to come back out here. It was like the windiest place in Patagonia ever. It was a fun hike, but when you hike 45 minutes to get to this area, I'm like, just pick a tree and let's shoot it.
Yeah.
I know that shouldn't matter at all, but when I see images like this, I'm like, it brings me back to that moment. And I love the hike. It was one of my favorite things ever.
You just feel like this location is ruined because all photographers go here and try to take
maybe
this
that's
shot.
like 30% of it.
Okay.
The other 30% is I feel like I really want this horizon lower. Like I don't like how all of the left-hand side of the frame has this heavy vignette and the tree kind of becomes bulkier at the horizon. Like I don't know that I love this shot to begin with. I remember when Elia was trying to take something like this and I was like, we're just going to shoot through this dead tree. And like, to me, that mountain, that's what's so cool about this location.
Yeah, but without a foreground element, the mountain just looks like
maybe,
some
but
speck
maybe
in the
there's a
background.
foreground where you show this vast field and all the little trees. Like in this picture, you can't even tell that these trees are everywhere. You can't see any. Maybe like right up here, you can kind of see one in the corner. You know.
Yep.
what's going. I guess that's a little tree up there in the corner. I don't know. Like the toning is pretty cool. I just feel like the foreground, it's too heavy. You have too much foreground and midground compressed all together. I know this is a wide angle shot, but like it reads, if you just like, I like to always say, close your eyes and open them really quickly. If you just look at that really quickly, I feel like the foreground, which is supposed to be the most interesting part, doesn't have enough separation, you know?
Well,
And it's a subliminal thing. As a photographer, I look at this and I'm like, this is shot really, really well technically. But I'm almost going back to composition and overall feel and I don't know, just how quickly does it read? I feel like it's too much information that's very, very dark in this foreground. For me, I don't know.
well, Manuel Estacio took this image. He said he shot it on a Nikon D850 with a Nikon 16 to 35 millimeter lens at 16 millimeters. And I feel like this image was what I asked for because I didn't just want to see wide angle images. I wanted to see wide angle images with perspective distortion. I wanted to see you really close to some sort of foreground element. So I dig it. I'm in between a 3 and a 4.
I mean, I like it. I gave it a 3. It's a solid image for your portfolio.
Community gives it 3.63.
I'm in the
Next
minority
up.
here.
I mean, here's another over-the-top Milky Way shot. We've got some wild colors and dodging going on in the foreground. But we've certainly got, you know, interesting composition. Why don't we go ahead and rate this?
All right.
3, 2, 1. 3 stars. Now, you've given the last 3 images 3 stars.
Yeah.
Is this equivalent to the previous 2?
I know it's like a hard rating, but I would say this is on the lower scale of a 3, and those others were on a higher level of the 3s,
Okay.
closer to a 4. The big thing that kills me with this is I don't like the lighting in the foreground.
Yeah. It's
The
a little
lighting
much.
feels like the color's weird, the direction. I'm trying to figure out where the direction is. It almost feels very flat, like it's coming straight down, like on-camera flash or something. And then it's vignetted or blended in a way that it feels like the brightest part should be the rock face closest to the light. If you come down here, can I zoom in?
Mm-hmm.
If you come down here to the corner, all of this light on the side of the road is very bright as you get closer, and then the inverse square law, it's going to start to get softer and darker out. But here, we have the hottest part of this image is like close to the tripod, and then it goes really dark and cool as you get closer to, you know, the traffic. And I understand the traffic may not be spilling light right on there, but it just, that whole foreground reads really weird to me. I just want it, maybe if it was just toned down like 30%, and made blue so that it looks like it's more ambient light just filling in so that you can read what it is. I also don't like that it looks like there's a coffin or a sheet of paper, like a tombstone right up here. I'm like,
Yeah.
What is that? Overall, though, I mean, it's a pretty nice image.
Well, Daniel Tripolt shot this. He said he shot it on a Nikon D750 with a Nikon 17 to 35. Not sure I'm familiar with the 17 to 35. Didn't the last photographer say they shot on a 16 to 35?
The 17 to 35, that is the full frame 2.8 zoom, back before like the 24 to 70 came out, right? Like the 17 to 35, I think that came out like in 2000. You had...
I mean, I'm sure that these lenses keep getting replaced every decade or something, so there was probably a previous one before that as well.
I'm just trying to remember, what was the first... Yeah, I thought the 17 to 35 was an older lens, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, did I say what this was rated? Community gave it 3.32. Do
you like to read any of the comments that people are leaving? How do we want to do this? I feel like some of the most interesting stuff's going in there. live, but if we just move on, I miss it. But then it does slow down the show to read it
I
all.
know.
There's a balancing act here.
I'm trying to keep the show moving. If anyone's interested, like last time, for the $20 super chat, we will critique your images, but we're going to critique your images at the end of the show this time, once we've gone through these 10 images. So please email whatever image you want to be critiqued to fstopperslive@gmail.com. This info is in the description if you guys want to do it.
Zachna says the 17 to 35 2.8 is Nikon's basic wide-angle professional zoom for FX. It can't be FX because there was no. Well, I guess it was for film.
Yeah, it was for film.
It was a film camera. Maybe this is the one. So what was the first zoom you had? You had something to 55 2.8, I think.
Yeah.
18 to 55.
It might have been like a 1755 2.8 for crop sensor.
Right, and so I think this lens was the full frame, more professional one, but it didn't translate well for DX cameras because you had to crop in so much. So that must have been the old film lens, but.
Yeah, so let's get back to it here. Next up.
All right, next image.
You know, these images are tough to tell what lens they were shot on because you can't really tell how big a rock is, right? Like those rocks in the bottom right, are those gigantic boulders or are those small hand size rocks, you know?
Yeah.
And then having that guy in the background kind of puts things into perspective. I mean, without him there, you wouldn't know how big those pools of water are, right? But because he's out there, it makes those pools of water in the cave look gigantic. So it's kind of difficult. But Philip Slot says that this was shot at 16 millimeters on the exact same lens, Nikon 16 to 35, or 16 to 35. What were we talking about before? 1735?
1735.
Okay, so he's saying 1635 f4.
16 to 35 millimeter lens is a killer lens because it's super wide, it's really small, it's only f4, but the advantage of that lens is you can put all the filters on it. The 14 to 24 lens, or even the Tamron that we have, what is that, the 15 to 35, I believe, something like that. They're amazing for low light, and they're the most expensive lenses, but you can never put the filters on. Like, I remember Eli was traveling with filters for the 14 to 24.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it was this crazy setup, so I love that lens just because it gets the job done. And in many cases for landscapes, you're shooting at f8. Who cares if you have a 2.8 lens?
You got to be ready at a moment's notice to shoot that Galaxy, though. You ready to rate this?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
I'm on like a high 3. Like, this
Me
might
too.
be one of my more favorite images. And I think it's
Maybe
because
I should give this a 4.
I like this image the most so far because it's just different. You know, it's simple. It's an area that probably, I mean, this could look really ugly. Like if you're just in this cave and the light's not doing the magic that it's doing in this shot, you might just be like, man, it's an old stinky cave. And like there's nothing in the horizon. It's not like it's not the spot you think to shoot. But when you put all this timing and effort into it, this has such an impact. And it feels so warm and inviting. It's different. It's not this over-the-top galaxy shot that we've all seen. I feel like this is really cool. I'm not so sure that I love what the dude is doing. It just kind of feels like a little boring.
You want him to be like arms outstretched with the head back? I hear that one is popular.
I don't know what I want. I just want something more than this. I want him camping. I want him with another person holding hands looking straight out. Maybe that would start to feel a little like engagement shooty, you know, like that vibe. And I don't know that you want that vibe, but I just feel like this is just like, hey, bro, you got the picture done. Like, I'm ready to get out of here. It feels too casual to me. I've also been thinking if you just remove him, I know that takes away the perspective, but what if you removed him? And I was also thinking, and I don't know how the lighting would work here, but could you move the camera? I know everyone's going to disagree with me here. Could you move the camera where you don't even see the sky and the water, and this just becomes this weird cave that almost looks like something out of a video game?
I absolutely disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, why would you want that? I mean, a lot of work's been done already to get the highlights on the opposite side of this cave. I mean, can you imagine what this looked like straight out of camera? It's probably just like black cave with blown out highlight on the right side, blown out sky, blown out water. And so they've done a lot of blending here
You
to
see the
get it all
last two
back.
comments? They're pretty interesting. Max says, same Patrick, I agree. And then BC437A says, agree, Patrick. Just to
They're talking about something else that you said. They don't want you to not see the outside of the cave. That's not even a concept.
Or, just squish it to where it's just the smallest sliver. But I do love the shape, this little California shape that they have in there. State of California. It's like, it's a cool amount that you can see, and it's not over the top. I don't know. I'm curious to see if I'll like more images in this critique. I just feel like this is unique and different, and I applaud you for that. Even though I just gave you a 3, I feel like this might be my favorite image I've seen so far.
Community gives it 3.1 stars.
Rough crowd. So I was recently wasting, I don't know if wasting is the right word, but wasting some time in my office trying to learn how to do this without watching any tutorials.
Okay.
And I was thinking a lot of this, now that I've played around a little bit more with gradients, I feel like a lot of this is just making complex selections of your subject matter,
And then
playing with the sky, either inverting it or putting a infrared filter or just pulling the blues down in a black and white filter. The problem I've been having with some of that is when I pull the blues down, the image gets so noisy. Have you played around a lot with the black and white filter in Photoshop?
No.
Where you have all the different colors?
Real quick, I just want to point out that the guy who said he agreed with you said he was agreeing about the timing and not your horrible idea of not showing the
Dang it,
outside of the
come on,
cave.
guys. That's what I don't like about this live show.
But he loved you all for a second, now he hates you.
So I don't know. I see this style a lot, and this isn't even the most extreme style of this black and white look, but I just wonder how people do it. And I have to believe that some of the ones we think of when we think of this style are done with gradients, where this unnatural shadow is going across a building, but then the sky has a different gradient or something, and it makes it feel really isolated and timeless and fine arty.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Man, have you given anything but 3s today?
No, I'm on a rhythm.
I do really like this, and maybe I should give it 4 stars, but I've just seen so many pictures like this now that it's not as impressive to me as it once was. Should that make it any better or worse? I don't know, but I do think it's well done. I think it's a really interesting shot.
I don't know if I like the composition. And I don't know what the composition should be. I keep thinking, should you cut off a lot of the bottom because it's so not interesting, and like zoom in and make this more abstract even than what it is? Just feels like everything's so straight. It just feels like I don't want to say no thought was put into the composition. Maybe tons of thought was put in to get the windows to do what they're doing, but I think that's all faked. I think they've cut the windows out and put gradients or something underneath.
I know, it does seem, the windows seem
So
weird.
if it doesn't matter where your camera is because you're going to do all that in post, I just feel like get closer and shoot more angled up or something. Something about this composition just doesn't feel that exciting to me.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Also, like Ivan says here, the subject matter is just not a 4-star subject matter to begin with. It's just kind of like shingles or bricks for the most part.
Maybe you're right about that, and maybe I'm just having a little hard time seeing the image on these screens, and so I'm not really taking into consideration how much dead space there is on the bottom. So
it's pretty significant.
Yeah, maybe I would crop in a little bit there, or change the aspect ratio a little bit. Let me quickly pull up the info about this. Roll Shipper took this, and he shot it at 12 millimeters in the Netherlands.
If anyone knows, is there a term for this type of photography? It's got to have a name by now because so many people do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Contrasty blocking, like that doesn't make any. It's got to have like, there's got to be like one guy who was the first to really do it.
Yeah,
but-
I remember some guy on Fstoppers years ago started doing, and that was the first time I had ever seen it.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. I was like, how do you do this? And now I see so many photographers doing it.
Should it blow your mind any less if you still don't know how to do it?
Yeah,
but
that's
you see
true.
more people doing it?
Yeah, I haven't actually looked into doing it myself. It'd be interesting if somebody could pull it off in color. I've never seen it done in color. So there must be some reason why.
Maybe you're on to the next movement.
Yeah. All right, here's the next shot here. I can pull it up real quick and we can get the info on it. Oh, and let me quickly say, the last shot was rated by the community 3.08 stars. This one was taken by Michael Rochteshell, and it was shot with the 650D in the Tokina 14 millimeter. He says with a Tokina at 14 millimeter, so I would assume it's a zoom lens. What's this Tokina that we have right here? We've got a 11 to 16. That was an old one.
That was the wide-angle lens for cropped cameras. If you wanted to be able to put a filter on,
Yeah.
and you didn't want, like I said, the crazy bulbous ones for crop sensors. But man, I use that a lot in underwater housing. You put it in the bags and stuff. I shot a lot of kiteboarding on that lens.
Yeah, that was a good one for that, and very affordable too. You can get that lens now for like
The other
$200 or
thing,
$300.
The other thing that was really nice about this particular lens, especially if you're shooting underwater or if you're doing landscapes, is once you have your composition, oh, it's up here. You just pull this little thing back to lock the focus. So in a bag, many times you would focus, and then you don't want the if I was shooting wakeboarding, I knew the distance they always were from the camera, but I didn't want the camera to grab onto something else. So like you could, in a bag, you could pop that pretty easily, where hitting some of these other buttons and locking, well, I'm not used to that camera, but, you know, I just like that mechanism. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
You play with lenses that don't have like a manual focus button on the lens, and it's like you have to use the camera, but if you're on a different camera system, I don't know. I just feel like all lenses should have a way to turn the camera into manual focus.
Turn the lens into manual focus?
Turn the lens.
Well, the issue is that in certain situations you don't want to bump the focus ring. When you're in the bag, that's definitely it's because you might be grabbing that thing and turning the zoom, and then the bag is coming and hitting the focus ring and messing up your focus too.
Yeah.
So it is important to be able to cut it off.
So the way I like that, you hate it. It's like, I liked it because I could snap the focus out.
No. I'm saying that's good.
Oh.
I'm saying that's good. As long as when it's pulled back, it doesn't, like when it's in autofocus and you turn it, nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
Every other current lens I've seen, when you turn it, it's always going to do something, it seems like, which isn't the best. What are we doing here? A
This is the next image. Yep.
Okay.
And this is a critique.
Let's rate this. 3, 2, 1.
3 again. I will say though, I really like this image for a 3. Like, and a 3 is still a solid image. I'm happy all day to get 3s in my portfolio. That means like I'm producing images that aren't way off base.
Sure.
You know, I love the colors in this. I love the composition in this. I love the uniqueness in this. I just feel like this is a really cool image. The things that I don't like, I'm trying to put my finger on it. I feel like something with the colors, it feels like almost a dual-toned image, or you're really fighting to pull color back in this. I don't know if you can notice this as well. Like when we look at the TV, it looks way more contrasty and punchy. But when I look on the other monitors and my iPad, it feels like you've done everything you can to make yellow garage lights look interesting. They look kind of muddy. There's like this muddiness going on. That doesn't really bother me that much, but it does make me feel like the quality of this image somehow isn't quite what it should be. And I'm trying to figure out like the body position of the girl.
It's a little, well, it feels fake. It doesn't feel like she's actually running. It feels like somebody's counting down and then she's doing the running pose, you know? But the other thing, does it feel like she's a little too far right in the frame?
Like she's running really close to the rail?
No, no, no. Like
oh, compositionally.
Compositionally, it feels like
you
maybe
would put her like here or something?
I don't know if I would crop in. I might like the composition, but it just feels like I want her to be pushed to the left just a little bit. I don't know, when people are running into a wall or the edge of the frame or something, sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable. And I'm getting a little bit of that here.
So you would put her in the middle of the frame?
Maybe.
Like she has more room to run into than what she has.
And then I'm also wondering, like, would she potentially be better on the top row up there? You have more room to work up there. I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking. But I do like this image. I think it's pretty cool.
Do you think, and I could go either way here, do you think you would pop a flash in, even if you kept the camera on a tripod? I don't know how this was shot. But would you try to get some of the color tonings that's throughout every level up in that top left corner, just to like fill it out a little bit more? Or do you like it going dark and giving the curve of the highest level like a little...
It kind of has a natural vignette up there. So I don't know. If that was too bright, my eye might go up there. So I might like it.
Yeah, I'd want to tone it down, but I also, I don't know, is the light on her level just a little hot compared to the others? Or do you want that? Do you want the light on her level and then the light casting up on the concrete right behind her to be different so that it pulls you into that? Or do you feel like it's just like a third or 2/3 of a stop too bright? I mean, we're nitpicking this.
Yeah, we definitely are nitpicking.
I don't know if any of this would make it a 4, but it's a cool shot. I really do like this one.
Jim Vinning, thanks for the super chat. He says, you guys rock. Watch all of your COVID videos. It's very funny that we are becoming more known on YouTube for our nightly coronavirus journals than we are for our photography content. But that is the world that we currently live in. Guys, if you're watching right now, we would appreciate a subscribe because, in case you haven't noticed, this is a completely new YouTube channel. We're trying to keep the live content off of our regular YouTube channel and move live content onto this channel. It's a long story, but if you like this sort of thing, hit that subscribe button for us. Let's move on.
Ooh.
In case I didn't say it, the last one in the parking deck got a 2.98
Yeah, they went
community rating.
They went a little low there. Well, this is definitely kind of a different landscape than what we're used to seeing.
Now this is by Philip Slot. Have we had him yet?
He was just in 2 images ago.
Okay, that's a mistake. I'm trying not to get multiple submissions from the same photographer, but I must have liked multiple of his images. He said this was shot a classic Swedish cabin in the countryside of Stockholm, 16 millimeters on a full frame camera. This is a very unique composition. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree.
I would never think to take a picture of a small cabin like this with a relatively uninteresting foreground, but I really like this. It has
grown on you?
I don't know if it's grown on me or I liked it from the second that I saw it, but again, we have that natural vignette on the bottom. You know, maybe it's been darkened a little bit, but you know, it's just these high plants and everything. And then it just goes brighter and brighter and brighter until you see that red subject matter right in the middle. I don't know. It's very different than what I would imagine people shoot of this location, and I appreciate that. Why don't you crop in? Let's just see what this looks like, cropped in like a more normal crop.
I mean, we haven't rated this yet. Are you saying like that? Still a vertical or like a horizontal?
I mean, I feel like that loses something, don't you?
I don't know. You ready to rate it?
Yes, sir. 3, 2, 1.
You're going 4?
Shocker. 3 stars, huh, Patrick?
I don't know that I love the foreground. I mean, I see what you're saying. If we start zooming in past it, it almost feels like a mistake, maybe, or it's also like there's so much dynamic range that's been thrown into the shadows here on the top part that it feels weird showcasing that. But when you show the shadows in the foreground, I think that transition's a little more natural. But I don't know. I like this in the sense, I've probably said this over and over again. I like this that this is something new and fresh, and it's not a scene that we've all seen, and it's not the Milky Way and all the cosmos and the meteors crossing. It's like just a simple scene. It is a little over the top with the color, but it feels like it looks like something that you would feel if you went there. It's very warm and sunny, and it has that vibe to it. I just don't know if I enjoy the bottom part of the frame enough to give it a solid 4. I keep trying to play with the crop and say, do I like it?
I don't mind that either. I do like those foreground elements, though, and I don't think I would have ever thought to put high weeds as the foreground, but it's working. Interesting. Let me tell you what this has been rated. Community gives it 2.93. Next shot. And guys, fair warning, we're coming to the end here. If anybody has other images they want us to critique, submit them now. If they're not in by the time we're done, we're closing out the show. So this shot was taken by Chris Davis. He said it's a supercell formation in Colorado. Widest I had was a 16 millimeter, but could have used wide on this trip. Don't exactly know what that means. 16 millimeter sounds wide. I wonder, could he mean 16 millimeters on a crop sensor? I don't know.
I don't know, like 16 millimeters, pretty wide.
Yeah.
It's a wild shot. Have you looked up supercell storms, like in just Google Images, and seen images like this?
I mean, I've seen many incredible shots of clouds and stuff, and I think I've also seen some pretty horrifying videos of kiteboarders getting caught in, I think they call them supercells, where you'll be riding at like 20 knots and all of a sudden it'll be like 100 knots out of the blue, and it won't be a storm or anything. It's just comes through like crazy and you have to detach from the kite and stuff. I've seen a few videos like that that are just wild. But, I mean, this image is
that would be
cool.
pretty epic if you could shoot. My dream is always to shoot an image that makes the Red Bull illume. And if you were kiteboarding and got pulled up into that, and you had to take a picture of it, and you were like, if you look right here, you see the kiteboarder.
Just going to his death.
Well, that video we saw yesterday that Pi sent us, kiteboarder getting launched into like trees and then slammed into the ground at this beach.
Yeah,
man,
but
it's pretty
there's footage of kiteboarders flying against their will into buildings and things, which is really scary, and it's usually people that are new, like they don't really know what they're doing. And then there's people who are trying to do crazy tricks and fail.
Yeah.
And I don't feel as sorry for them.
Yeah, he was trying to just brush the top of those trees with his foot.
Yeah.
I shouldn't talk about things that other people haven't seen, but I think I'm ready for it.
3, 2, 1.
I want to throw something other than a 3 on this show. I don't know if that's ever happened to me.
I know, it hasn't happened.
Because you intentionally, like, I always try to put a 2-star in there, and I always try to we put the highest rated, thinking those could hit a 5 or a 4.
Yeah.
But then there's always those images that are 2s to you or 3s to me, and it's debatable. These feel like solid, down-the-line images. My problem with this, I think, is just the composition. I think the horizon's too straight, the foreground's not interesting enough. You have this fence to the left that is probably all you have to work with, but I feel like that's what you have to do. You have to figure out the angle with the camera close to the fence so that you get something else interesting going on.
Yeah, I don't like the fence post on the left. I don't mind having that fence cut through the middle or the the bottom of the frame.
But you wouldn't want to shoot without it, right? Like, that's even more boring. That's just the most straight line.
I don't know. Zoom out a little bit. I feel like just zoom right past, yeah, like that maybe. I mean, obviously you don't see the left side of the storm, but I don't know.
I think you got to play with that fence and move to your left and start shooting down the. Or go back up. Like if we zoom in over here, you can see a road way there. Like just walk back there and try to get the road leading into the storm or something. I don't know. I just feel like you have such a this is the ultimate sky replacement, right? You can only use it once ever before it's replicated.
You're saying like give up on this image, but take the sky and put it into some other foreground that you like better?
I don't know. There's an ethics that people probably don't like with that. I get it, especially when it's this extreme. If it's just a pretty sun that goes into some other image, then who cares? But this is one of those, it's like, man, I shot the most beautiful image on my cell phone, and it captures this crazy event that's beautiful.
It certainly doesn't look like a cell phone image. I feel like...
I don't know. I think cell phones could take this that well now.
I don't know. I feel like there's some post-processing going on. I like the blue juxtaposed with the orange and yellow, in the upper left and bottom right. There's definitely some interesting elements to it, and it's an incredible sky. I don't know. 3 stars. I agree. Community gives this one 2.85. We have been here. Can you remember what this is called?
This is Vesterhorn in Iceland.
Okay. Yes, it is.
And this definitely has to be in the winter because there's a decent amount of snow on all these dunes.
He says that he shot this on the 16 to 35 millimeter. Goodness, didn't know how many people own that lens.
That's probably the most popular lens for. Is that a Nikon only lens or does Sony, Canon have one as well, or Sony?
I don't know.
I never know what Sony makes. Sony for the longest time had no lenses, and that was the main reason I never switched to Sony.
Yeah.
But now over the years, I think have they taken over the market? Not in number of lenses, but in terms of people picking a camera brand.
It definitely seems like Sony is the most popular.
Is leading the.
But I hear a lot of people talking about that Canon R5 every day, so we'll see how incredible that camera is. How many people think they want to shoot an 8K video and then will never do it, and they'll buy this really expensive camera for this feature they literally never use? I don't know. Are you ready to rate this?
Is it the last one, or we have one more? We have a few more.
I don't know. Swipe and see.
There's another one.
Okay.
Without giving it away up there. All right.
3, 2, 1.
Dang it.
You are the most boring critiquer.
I want to throw something else, but I have to be true to myself and say, like, none of these are 2s and none of these are 4s to me. Some have come close to being 4s. There was a lot that I really enjoyed at the beginning of this. And I enjoyed this. Like, I like this image.
There's aspects of this that I really like. I like at least the feeling of the moonlight kind of coming down the middle now, and those reflections that you have down the middle but you don't have on the left side. I love the fact that this looks different than when we were there, but
I almost, like, now that you mention that, I was trying to figure out why there's this line down the middle.
Yeah, well, can you figure it out? It's kind of hard for me to see.
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's only snow on the right side of the frame, or maybe there's a cloud in the sky to the left that's not allowing enough light to reflect down.
Maybe snow, this would kind of make sense. Maybe snow is being blown towards the cameraman, and those little humps are blocking it from spreading on the left side of the frame. Kind of feels like what's going on.
But I liked what you said about the moon, and you obviously don't have the moon here, but
it just has that feeling. This was probably taken during the day.
If there was like a moon, I keep looking at this as fine art, and with fine art, you kind of have the liberties to make it what you want as opposed to capturing it as it is.
Oh, see, I don't know if I agree with that.
Really?
I think landscape photography as fine art needs to be more
real.
Yeah.
Well, if you could come back out here and line the moon up, I think having a shot of a blown out moon or something. I just know at a wide angle the moon's going to be a dot, but I just want to see like something up there that's doing a. It's like I don't have the dramatic lighting event that I want, and I don't mean that the sky has to be nuclear and going crazy, but it just feels like there's something back there. I guess the sun or moon is behind the mountain. Seems like the brightest part of the sky, and I want to see it creeping up, or I want to see the moon in the sky or something.
Right. Community gives this one 2.81 stars. Are we on to the final image now? Patrick?
Yes, I'm just reading comments. People are saying when there's the A7R5 and Canon has the R5, like why are all these cameras named so similarly?
I don't know. I hate naming schematics for so many tech products. They make no sense.
Like what was it? Was it Canon had the something 7? D7?
Maybe we should flip back to our screen if we're going to talk about this. Who?
Like what is Canon's crop?
70D?
That's what it was. The 70D, and Nikon had the D70 or the D750, and I'm like, why are all these names so similar? Because it's easy to keep up with it when you're in that brand's catalog. But when we have buddies and they're like, oh, I'll just bring a 7D over, and you're like, it's just easy to like get those numbers mixed up.
Well, you know, something that really infuriated me when I was first learning photography was how complicated lens names were. You know, it'll be like Nikon 28 to 70 millimeter, f2.8, VC
2.
LR2,
FL.
yeah, and you're like, what the hell does all this stuff mean? But then as you learn what each one of those things means, it becomes very easy to find the lenses with the features that you want. You know what I mean? But I'm looking into potentially building another computer. Intel just released their new 10th generation of Core processors.
Okay.
And, you know, they got the i3, the i5, the i7, the i9, but it doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't mean anything, right? Can't you have an i7 that's faster than an
yes,
i9 or
yes.
more powerful?
Especially when you look at like this year's i7 versus last year's i9, and some of them used to mean like the i9s were the only ones that had hyper-threading, but then this year all of them have hyper-threading. So it's very confusing, and you can't learn anything just from reading the number.
So you like the long lens name because if a bunch of lenses were listed, you can quickly tell this one has the fluorine coating and that's really what I want. Or this is the VR2 and I know the VR2 is better.
I would need to fully think it out because I feel like lens names are ridiculous how long they can get, but there is something to be said for understanding what you're looking at without having to read a description of the product.
Yeah. All right, our final image. Oh, whoa, where in the world is this?
Oh man, this looks like a once-in-a-lifetime image right here. How did they time it so perfectly?
It's like all
with the light.
It's like the particles and stuff.
Yes.
That is wild.
In case you guys...
It's probably so quiet there and peaceful. You could just sit there and just like get in tune with yourself and meditate.
If somebody has an extra tab open and they can search for this, I think we made a video on Fstoppers' YouTube channel called something like The Truth Behind This Photograph. And it's a picture of Alaya. The thumbnail is a picture of Alaya standing next to this location, a print of this location. Somebody post that hyperlink in the description or in the live chat so other people can watch it if you haven't already. But the basic story behind this is that you pay money to go here.
Where is this, first of all?
Antelope Canyon. You pay extra money to be a photographer with a tripod, and they guarantee you like 3 images or something, and they have it timed to the second. And this canyon is packed with people. I'm telling you, there's like thousands of people in this canyon. And 60 seconds before the light comes in, they push all the people forward and they push all the people back, and then everybody who spent $150 for the photography tour gets to line up in the exact same location, and then a guy hides behind the wall on the right side right out of frame, and he picks up dust and he throws it in there, and then all the photographers take the exact same picture, and then we move down the canyon because the sun's about to come out in the next place, and then we throw the sand on the thing and the sand falls down the wall. It was one of the lamest photo experiences of my life.
So frustrating about this is now every time I see one of these images, I think of it as one of my images. Now let me explain this a little bit better. I was spending most of my time filming Elia, but when you're there, there's a part of you inside that gets greedy, and you want that photo too.
Yeah.
Even though everyone else has it. So I would, in between filming Elia, I'd be like, I got the shot. There's only so many shots I need of Elia. So then I would flip over and take some pictures too. And I know that my pictures suffer the same thing that almost everyone else's pictures suffer from. And that is, this frame isn't chosen because this is exactly what you wanted. This frame is chosen because it's one of the only frames that you have where you have the dust and the person right to the left's lens isn't creeping in, and you didn't get the footprints way back here in the back. Maybe you did and you cloned them out. So like, unless you're Peter Lick or somebody who is going to just pay off the tour guides for probably a private tour where nobody's in there. Like, you'll go to a slightly different canyon.
Maybe.
But you're still going to have to pull some strings to have the ability to be there by yourself and frame up the exact shot that you want and wait for the exact perfect time of day to where you could go through a film strip of like 1,000 images and find the keeper. No one else has that ability. Everyone else is like, I'm hand holding and I'm snapping and praying and spraying, and you're just trying to make do with what you can get, and then that's your version of the Antelope Canyon.
And as someone pointed out in the comments, Peter Lick took a similar photograph at a similar canyon and sold it, made it black and white, sold it for millions of dollars. I think it's a beautiful photograph. And again, to the average person who doesn't know the story behind this, they probably think it's amazing too. I mean, it is amazing. It's like a wonder of the world.
Yeah.
But because we know what's going on and because I have seen better images of this, I feel like this image also seems to be suffering from a white balance issue. Does it feel overly red to you?
Definitely in the feed, or at least on the TV. But I don't know. I mean, I had a couple images like this. I tried to print one really large, and I shot it very differently. I wish I had my copy of the image I did. I toned it to where instead of going for the red, I made everything blue and like tried to change the white balance, but then left some red in the distance. Mine is very different and I wish I had it. So I'd love to show it. Like, it wasn't good enough. I never felt great enough to spend the money to print it, but it was very different. And I feel like shooting something different is the key here. But having done that, I've played with the white balance, and I have gone as far as doing frequency separation and changing the color drastically on the rocks while retaining all the details just to come up with something different. And I have to say, the colors in this place are always a little wonky. It always feels too warm, even though that's how it is. Yeah. So you can drive yourself crazy with that. But should we rate this?
Yeah. Did you hear? I think they stopped the photo tours of this.
Really?
I think I read that.
People. Is it COVID?
No, because they were getting such negative reviews. People would pay all this money to do the photo tour and then realize that there were thousands of people in there.
So they just got to like either get rid of the regular tours and do only the photo tours, or charge so much that like...
But think about it. That beam of light is only there for a few seconds. So you can't have more photographers because... How many photographers were in our group? Like
20?
Yeah, like we were all in each other's way with 20. Imagine if there was 100. That would have been ridiculous. So yeah, maybe like on Fridays, you could have photographers and it could just be photographers who pay $500 a person. But I bet it's still more lucrative for them.
If you had 20 photographers right where this camera is set, but you didn't have all the other people, I think that would still be very doable. What made it so complicated and difficult is right around the corner, in the middle of this frame, is a group of 100 people that didn't pay to be a photographer, and then they're all holding them. Like, that's where the stress came in. I didn't feel like the stress
I know,
was,
but they did a good job of pushing people away.
Yeah.
I never felt stressed because of the. I mean, I felt stressed because of the other people. I was like, this is my worst nightmare. But I felt like they were holding off the crowd well. They had it down to a system, no doubt. But the real stress came into like, oh my God, we have 15 seconds to get this shot, and we're getting footage of Elia getting this shot, and the photographers are fighting amongst themselves to see like who can get in the middle or who can get the lowest to the ground, because you don't want to be shooting over somebody's head or whatever. Anyway,
should we rate it?
yeah, let's go ahead and rate this.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
I'm between a 2 and a 3.
You just had to continue and go 10 threes in a row. I'm going to go 2, and I could see this definitely being a 3. I think my biggest reason for this being a 2 is not because of everything we just complained about, but I feel like the composition is a little weird here, being like so heavy on the right with that wall right next to you. It feels a little strange, like potentially a vertical image might have worked a little better here. And then the white balance feels so red to me as well. It just kind of feels like a mistake. But I think that the majority of impressive landscape photos, including this one, are all copies of other photographs that people have seen. So in a way, the majority of good landscape photos are kind of lame, because everybody's just going to the same spots, taking the same photos. So just because this person paid money to do this, what's the difference between paying money to do this or paying money to get into some national park and stand in the same spot, or not paying money but walking down a man-made path and standing in the same spot as everybody? Like, every landscape photographer does this. So I don't want to take off too many points for that.
Yeah, and people were talking about this a little bit more. Did you explain that to get this light, let me go back to our main camera angle, that all of this dust is there because there's a guy off to the side throwing it?
Yeah, I did mention that.
Many
He's got a
cases, there's
shovel.
like a ledge. You can see the dirt right here on the ledge. There's another guy, maybe not in this location, but they'll throw the dirt up there so that it falls.
Yeah.
And then you take the long exposure and it looks like
the sands of time.
Right.
Coming down the wall.
So I think, one thing we always deal with is this has been so overshot that all of the photographers out there are saying, in this chat, are saying, this is a 1 star because I've seen it a million times. But we'll definitely bring up the picture-in-picture. I think that's fair, but I also think that the average population still looks at this and says, oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Yeah, like I said.
And so for me, the things that I would critique are, I think the highlight on the ground is blown out a little too much. Something I did in my image, which I actually did just find in my email, so I can display it here, but I would have lassoed the whole bottom of the sand and then changed the color to make it less magenta and try to make, you could go crazy with it, and I'll have to see what I did in my picture, but you could make it look unrealistic, but it looks natural to your eye, but it doesn't look like that in real life. Or you could just tone it down a little bit so that it just feels a little different, But I feel like the highlight and the ground is what looks crazy to me. You also have, somebody was saying like wonky colors. What does that mean? I think it's the idea that the sand is fuchsia and purple and red. That is a wonky color to our eyes, but because everything is filled in with the red light, that's what you get. And then if you go up here to the top, all of your highlights are a wonky color. Like, you're not used to the highlights being that. So all I'm trying to say with these locations is there's so much color bleed and color cast and everything that it makes the image look very unnatural to the average person.
Well, do you want to pull up this other photograph?
Yes.
Got someone in the chat asking me to bring up more Subway Justice stories. I have gone to Subway 3 or 4 times since being on lockdown, and of course, being in Puerto Rico, like, the store is closed, but their drive-thru is open. And the manager of the store took my order last time. She actually came outside and was taking orders from car to car, and she recognized me and knew exactly what I wanted, which was a little embarrassing. But I have not been asking for the selfie combo anymore because I just felt like it was a little too complicated, and I didn't want to have to argue with somebody through the speaker system. You can barely understand them anyway. So Subway Justice has been on hold, but don't you worry. When the pandemic is over, that's my #1 priority, is getting to the bottom of that.
Dude, I'm having such trouble with this.
Do you want me to cut over to this?
Not yet. I'm trying to just figure out how to like load a single image. Like, why is it bringing up a bar on the right side?
I have no idea.
Can I just save?
Seems like you should be able to save it.
Like, I don't know what our website is doing here, but you can load that, I guess, maybe. This is going to look so ugly because of...
What are those buttons at the top? You can't save it like that?
I don't know. Is this... And this is our website, too. It's like it's... There we go. Maybe that's the... Whoa.
All right, let's...
This was my attempt at it, and you can see I went really crazy with this.
Now, what is this? This is not the moment where the dust was thrown.
Like I had the shot we just saw, and I was like, man, everyone's done this. But I had this one image here that was shot towards the exit. That's why the ground is so bright up there. And I just said, you know, this looks very different. It's not ultra wide angle. It's a vertical shot. It has this neat slither. And so I just played around with this for a day, and I was like, I don't know. I never really loved it. I never did anything with it. But I changed the color of the walls to be much darker and bluer so that I could make the distant background more red. I don't know. I don't know that it works, but this was just something that was completely different that I thought, I haven't seen anything shot like this. You can see the lit up ground. I have kind of made that a little more normal sand color. But
look at the comments. People being nice. You
people
got a
like
3
it.
and a few 4s.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I didn't like it enough. Let me see if I can. Here were some other versions of it. You can see this is probably a little bit more natural. It's got those like sand colors, but again, I tried to make the reds a little different so that they would be separated out. You can see my distant sand is very purple, pink, magenta. Yeah. And then if I go to this one, you know, I've played with the colors a lot to try to get it there. I don't know. I went really abstract, and I tried to just not make it look like every shot that we've seen. But at the end of the day, I'm like, still such an overshot area. I never put that in my portfolio. Never did anything with it. But I do like the idea of being somewhere that everyone has shot and finding something else to do with it, you know? And I don't know that anyone ever flown a drone, or can you go up on top and shoot down? Everybody shoots up. Like, that's the artistic, different thing that everyone's going to try, is let me shoot up at it. But I just feel like there's probably a lot of interesting things that you could do. You could also do a lot with styling if you could have access to that without people. If you could have people dress up in character, or you could have like carts that people are carrying, or make it look like a bazaar, something to where you've now added a whole
Star Wars thing,
a whole production element. I think that could be really cool. But all the shots of the stuff coming down the wall, I'm like, what's the point? Everyone else has done it.
I agree. Well, everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to be a part of the next critique, go to fstoppers.com/contest. You can submit your best image taken with a hot or constant light right now, and head over to fstoppers.com/store to check out all the Fstoppers tutorials that you could buy or potentially win in the next contest. We will see you all, I guess, later tonight if you're awake, for the next Coronavirus Journal.
Do you want to go earlier, or do you want to?
I'm happy to go earlier.
At the same time. I don't know that I have anything to talk about.
We never do, but we always find something. See you guys in a bit.